Hey y'all, I'm Hope, and today I want to talk about all the goals that I have for 2022. I don't have a lot of goals. I do have a few things that I just kind of want to keep in mind as I'm going into 2022. I didn't really set any goals for 2021, and that was because I knew that I just wasn't going to have the mental space for them, and I didn't want to completely overwhelm myself, so I just didn't. And that really worked well for me in 2021, but now that I'm kind of prepping for grad school next fall, and I'm more used to the process of like filming and editing, I'm thinking more in terms of like things that I want to accomplish. So that's kind of the plan for today. I also have my priority TBR for 2022, things that I would really like to get to. This is kind of a chaotic list. I literally just went and pulled stuff off my shelves right before I started filming this. So this isn't really like a heavily planned out video, but just kind of a reference of some things that I would like to accomplish for 2022. Kind of the first thing to note for me is that I'm reducing my reading goal. That's my main goal for the year, is the number of books that I want to read, which is 36. I did 50 for 2021, and that turned out to be stressful for me. I did 36 for 2020, and I actually read more in 2020 than I had read in years. I read 63 books in 2020, and so I thought, well, that was really easy. I'll just up it next year and make it a little harder. And so I did 50 for 2021, and I regret that decision because 50 turned out to be really stressful for me, because every time I logged into Goodreads, which was more than I probably should have been logging into Goodreads, but every time I looked at it, I kept seeing, oh, you're 2 books behind, you're 3 books behind. And that was actually more demotivating to me, and I had a really big reading slump in the middle of the year. So I'm not going to do that again. I am just going to reduce my reading goal for 2022. I'm taking it back to 36. That's really doable for me. That's just 3 books a month, and I can easily read that every month. So just gonna make it a little bit less pressure, because I know that I find it really motivating when I do like hit that goal early, and then I'm like, well, how far past it can I go? So that's the plan for that. And kind of also, I want to make myself more motivated to read, because one of the things I'd really like to accomplish in 2022 is bringing my currently owned TBR down quite a bit. I own a lot of fucking books. I'm pretty sure at my last count, my spreadsheet will tell me if I just pulled it up, but I think I'm like in the 280 some books range of things that I own and haven't read yet. Where's the little pulley bar? There we go. Oh, no, not quite. I have 271 unread books, and that's including ebooks and audiobooks as well. So I really want to motivate myself to read some more, because I would really like to bring that number down some to a more reasonable level. I know that I may not get it below 200. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll read 71 books. But I really just want to try and kind of start chipping away at that and making it more reasonable. Also because I have limited shelf space, and I don't tend to keep books that I don't absolutely love or need for some like academic reason. So reading some of the books on my shelf will help me to clear out some more space, because I'll have things that I'll read and I might be like, oh, this was good, but I don't feel the need to keep it, or I might be like, I hated this, it's going. So getting through some more of the things that I already own is really going to help me kind of make space for future books. And I really want to curate my collection of books, so I think it's a kind of a more accurate reflection of me and the things that I enjoy and kind of the themes and ideas that I find interesting. So that's kind of my goal at a very large scale. That's like a multi-year goal there. But I think that kind of lowering my reading goal so that I can be more motivated to push past it and read more is going to help. The other thing that I'm hoping is really going to help is I'm going to be doing a buying limit in 2022. I bought a lot of books in 2020 and 2021, largely in an effort to support my local bookstore, because I really wanted them to survive the pandemic. But I bought a lot of books. I also bought some from Barnes & Noble. I spent a lot of money on books, and I really need to bring that down, especially since I'm probably going to be starting grad school in the fall, and I need to reduce my expenses as much as I can. So I am trying to do that, and kind of as a part of that, what I want to do is I have this marble jar. I was inspired by these like read 10 by 1 things I was seeing. I think they're originally from Instagram, but I was seeing them on Twitter. And basically for every one of my owned books that I have read at the end of the month, I get a marble. And I also do like 2 challenges. So one of those is chosen via some kind of meme prompt cards that my partner made for me. And then one of those is chosen via a dice roll and spreadsheet. But I have those 2 challenge books, and if I read those as well, I get an extra marble. So that's kind of what I'm doing there, and then once I have 10 marbles, I can buy or pre-order a book. I am allowing myself 3 free pre-orders in 2022. That felt reasonable to me. Mostly because there's a couple of things coming out that I'm just extremely excited for, and there's authors that I would really like to pre-order from to support them. So I figured 3 felt like a reasonable number. I've already used one of them. I'm pre-ordering The Red Palace by June Her. That's kind of like my birthday present to myself because it comes out like a couple of weeks after my birthday. So that's the plan with that. 10 marbles equals 1 book. I can get marbles by reading my own books and doing challenges. And also I can have 3 free pre-orders that I don't need marbles for, but I've already used one of them, so I have 2 left. The other thing I really want to do in terms of like completing reading things is that I currently have a book subscription, which I may quit once I do start grad school, but I'll just have to wait and see what my actual like financial situation is going to be at the time. I'm really hoping to get a TA position, but we'll see about that. But for the time being, what I really want to try and do is read all of my subscription box books when I get them. I only have a Lumicrate right now. I only ever intend to have 1 subscription box because that's all I really want to have. I just like having that like 1 mystery book every month. Oh, mystery, I've guessed all of them so far. But I like the element of having that mystery and having that like little burst of dopamine every month. So for now, I'm going to keep a Lumicrate. I may cancel it later. Or I'm also considering, depending on what it looks like their book picks are going to be, Fairy Loot is starting their adult-only fantasy box. So I'm kind of considering swapping to that because it'll be cheaper for me. A Lumicrate's really expensive. I live in the US and the shipping is like 25 bucks alone. But I enjoy it and I know that I can afford it. I just need to start reading them in the month that I get them because I currently have... I'll be getting my 12th book box because I had Fairy Loot for 5 months in 2021, January to May, and then from June onwards I've been getting a Lumicrate. I'm getting my December one has shipped, hasn't arrived yet, but it has shipped. So I'll be getting my 12th book box of the year, and I haven't read a single one of the books that came out of any of those boxes. I've either not heard good reviews for some of them, not been terribly interested in ones they picked. That was mostly Fairy Loot, which is why I swapped to a Lumicrate, and then I cannot explain why I haven't picked up the rest of them because the Lumicrate's actually had a lot of books that I've been really excited about. So kind of the main goal there is I would like to read my Lumicrate books in the month that I get them. And I'm also thinking I might do some vlogs next year of me trying to read the ones that I got this year and actually get caught up on those. So that's kind of similarly in service of keeping my TBR down. It's just get the book, read the book, try and get into that kind of rhythm with those. So those are all of my like reading based goals, and then the only one I really have for YouTube is just to keep posting every week. I've been posting every Saturday for the last couple of months. I've missed a couple of weeks. One I think was family stuff going on, and then I got my booster shot and that knocked me down more than I thought it was going to. I had like no reaction to my first 2 COVID shots, but then I got my booster and I felt like shit. So I didn't do anything for a few days for that. But other than that, I've been pretty successful in posting once a week, and I've been kind of getting more into the rhythm of creating a video every week, or like getting a couple set up and ready to go ahead of time. So for now, I'm planning to continue posting every Saturday, usually between 10 and 11:30 on Eastern Standard Time. I may play around with that a little bit as the year goes on to see what works better. I don't get very many views, and I don't know if that's like that I'm boring, which is entirely possible, or if it's that I'm just not posting at a good time. So I may play with that a little bit, but currently the goal is continuing to post Saturdays sometime between 10 and 11:30, basically. But those are like my main level goals. Those are the things that I'd really like to accomplish in 2022. I feel really good about them. I think that they're achievable for me. I just need to actually like buckle down and do them. I've almost forgotten one. I'm about to add one more thing. This is actually related to the next thing. So we're kind of transitioning now into my priority TBR for 2022. And kind of the biggest chunk of that is that if you haven't already seen my announcement video, I'll link it in the description below. But I'm planning to try and read all of the sci-fi and fantasy Goodreads Choice nominees for 2021. And there's 40 of those, and I hadn't read a single one of them before the list was announced. So I saw the list and I was like, oh, I own several of these. I haven't read any of them. But I had a conversation with a friend in which she suggested, oh, you could read all of the sci-fi and fantasy stuff. I was like, you know what, I could read all of the sci-fi and fantasy nominees. And then I decided to. I was also somewhat inspired by Books and Lala's project where she reads the thriller or horror books every year. And then also books like Whoa did, I think it was called Project Sci-Fi, where she read all of the nominees, or read like all of a 20 book list of sci-fi books. I can't remember if it was Goodreads Choice nominees or not. I will link some of their videos down below on that. So you can go check them out because you absolutely should. They're really good. But I was inspired by that as well. So having kind of that in the back of my mind and then having this conversation with my friend, I ultimately decided I wanted to try and do this. So I'm reading 51 books for that because I had several of them were sequels and I had not read the books that preceded them. So good luck to me. I'm hoping to read those before I start grad school in August. So that's a massive goal, but at the same time, I'm pretty pumped about it. I think it's going to be fun, and I've actually already gotten kind of a head start on it. Hopefully, I should have some vlogs coming out soon for the first few of these, but the first few of my priority TBR for 2022 are actually the books from the Goodreads Choice nominees that I think I'm most excited for. I just decided to pick 2 to talk about. I will link my announcement video down in the description where I talk about all of the books and like which ones I own and all of that stuff. But these are the 2 that I'm most excited to get to. These were both ones that I had pre-ordered. One of them I pre-ordered, found out I was getting it in a limit crate and canceled the pre-order, but they were ones that I was extremely excited about. So the first one is A Desolation Called Peace by Katie Martine. This is the second book in the Takes Kalan duology, which is one of my favorite things. The first book, A Memory Called Empire, I read in 24 hours last year during a kind of Halloween time 24-hour readathon. And I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite books of last year. And this is the sequel, and I've just not gotten to it. But the first one is a kind of third-person, close perspective on one character named Mahit, who unexpectedly becomes the ambassador for her little mining station to the Takes Kalanli Empire. And so she goes to the capital city of Takes Kalan only to find out that her predecessor has been murdered, and nobody will talk about it. So she needs to solve his murder while also trying to protect the interests of her mining station. And I just loved everything about the book. I thought the writing was beautiful. I think the world is really interesting, and the world building is just very cool. There's a lot of interesting technology. There's a lot of interesting things about like the ways that different groups see the world. So I thought that was really fascinating. I loved it. And this one, I believe, opens up the world in some new and interesting ways. So I'm really excited to get to this one. Then the other one from that list that I'm really excited about is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, which I believe is a kind of light fantasy, kind of historical fantasy, gender-bent retelling of the rise of, I think it's the Ming Dynasty. And I'm just really excited to get to this one. I keep hearing really, really good things about it. My same friend who suggested, hey, you could read all of those books, she's already read this, and she's actually also already read this one, sorry for bumping the camera, and loved both of them and has been telling me, you're gonna love them, these are gonna be right up your alley, and she's never been wrong anytime she's ever recommended me a book, so I'm just super excited. I couldn't decide if I was gonna say excited or pumped there. I'm really excited to get to this one as well. Those are the 2 that I think I'm most highly anticipating off of those 2 lists. So anyway, switching gears, I have something very different, which is the first book, I believe, that my partner ever gifted me, which I have not read yet and feel like I really should. We've been together for 3 years already. He gave this to me, I think, like 2 years ago. It was the year it came out, I believe. And this is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles, which is about this guy during, I think it's the Bolshevik Revolution. It's in 1920s Moscow. He is deemed revolutionary, but not enough, and put under house arrest in this hotel. And I believe this follows like several years of his life living in this hotel and just like the adventures that he has. And I started reading this. You can actually see my bookmark right here. And I was really enjoying what I read of it. My cat is having a coughing fit. Hang on. Okay, my cat is okay. He's just... Both of our cats had respiratory infections when they were younger, and we've taken them to the vet and talked to them about this because they both have these little coughing fits sometimes. He seems to be okay now. He just gets a little bit wheezy and starts coughing a little. But the vet has checked both of them out, said they're fine. We think it's scar tissue from their respiratory infections they had when they were kittens. This was a year apart because this is Elwood, who's creeping back here. I don't know if he's going to be visible or not. He's about a year older than our other cat, Pumpkin. Anyway, I just wanted to check on him, make sure he's okay. And he seems to be. He's a little bit mad I've shut him in, but he'll get over it. He's not going to be shut in for very long. Anyway, I was talking about this one. I really want to get to this one because I feel like I just should, because my partner gave this to me. It was the first book he gifted me, and I just haven't gotten to it yet, and it feels like I really need to do that. So I'm going to try and get to this one in 2022. Next up is a book I've tried to read before as well. This is The House of Shattered Wings by Eliot Davidard. It's the first book in the Dominion of the Fallen trilogy, which is set in a alternate Gothic Paris in the wake of something, I think it's called the Great Magician's War, and the city is ruled by these like different big houses. I should probably call them great houses rather than big. Yeah, literally says the great houses. Anyway, there's the great houses, and the city is kind of ruled by all of these different houses, and it follows some people involved with that. I believe there's also like, is there a murder mystery in here? Yeah, so this is a murder mystery as well. So I'm really excited to get to this one. I've read several of Eliot Davidard's sci-fi novellas, and they're all fantastic. I really love them. I think my favorite might be The Tea Master and the Detective so far. I have a couple others on my shelf that I need to get to, but I love her writing, and I'm really excited to get to this one. I just happened to start this at a time when I really wasn't in the mood for this or up to reading it, so I read like 30 pages and then set it down. So I want to give this another chance, just because I know I'm going to enjoy it. I just picked it up at the wrong time. Next up, I've got the only nonfiction on this list. It's The Five by Hallie Rubenhold, and this one is the story of the lives of the women that were killed by Jack the Ripper. I really want to read this one in part because I was that weird kid in high school that was like super obsessed with serial killers. Not modern ones, but like very specifically kind of 1800s to early 1900s serial killers. My two biggest fascinations were definitely Jack the Ripper and H.H. Holmes, which I think are kind of some of the better known ones. But I just think that they're really interesting. I was fascinated with it. I really wanted to be a forensic scientist for a long time, but I wish this resource had been around when I was in high school, because I would have loved reading this then, and so this I think is really going to appeal to the part of me that still is fascinated by those things. The next one is a book that is in a series that I started in high school, but I started it in the wrong order. So I have The Shadow of the Wind by Stefan, which I know is a very popular book. This is the first book in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. I'm struggling to speak today, bear with me. But these are all set in Barcelona in like the 1940s and 50s, I think. But this one follows this guy named Daniel, who he's the son of an antiquarian book dealer. And in the wake of his mother's death, he finds comfort in this specific book, but later on realizes that all of the versions, or all copies of this book, are being destroyed. And so he wants to find out who is doing that and why. But this is the first book in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, which is a really interesting series in that each story is written in a way that it could be read as a standalone. They kind of all tie into the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, but they have recurring characters, but they aren't necessarily written as like events following a sequence. So when I was in high school, my Spanish teacher lent me the third book in this series, Prisoner of Heaven. And at the time that I read it, it was like my absolute all-time favorite book. It was beautifully written. I thought the story was fantastic. I devoured the book in like 2 or 3 days and returned it to her, my teacher, and kept thinking about it, and I'm still thinking about it years later. But I never got around to reading the rest because I only just recently, in like the last few years, found out that there was a series. And I think now I'm a little bit intimidated to read them just because I loved that one so much. I'm a little afraid that the rest aren't gonna like live up to that memory. But I do really want to get to them, and this has been sitting on my shelf for quite a while now. I think I bought these when I first moved to the city I currently live in, which was several years ago. I got the first 2. I don't have a copy of the third one, funnily enough. And then I recently just got the 4th book. So I really do need to get to these. I just really hope that this lives up to my expectations for this series, just because I know I loved that other one so much. The last book that I have here, that's one that I already own, is also a book in a series that I started in high school. This is The Girl Who Played with Fire by Larsen. I read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in like 10th grade, and it was a slog. Like, I enjoyed it, but it's a slog. I felt like I was reading for hours and not getting anywhere. So then I picked up this one, and I stuck it on my shelf and thought, okay, I need a little break because it's kind of a long book. It's probably going to be a bit of a slog again. And now that I started that in 10th grade, and I've graduated college 2 years ago. So I guess I've had a break now, but I feel like it's time for me to finally pick it up, because I think if I don't read it in 2022, I'm just not going to read it, and I should probably just get rid of them. So I really want to give this a chance. Finally, I don't remember anything about the first book anymore, but I do feel like it needs to happen. Like, I need to pick this one up now and know whether I still like them and whether it's worth holding on to them, or if I should just let them go and get them off my shelves and make some room for some other things. You can see my cat back here moving this box around. Elwood, you don't need styrofoam all over you, honey. Bring my little crying boy over. This is Elwood. He's kind of a jerk sometimes, but he's also very sweet. He's been very lovey lately. He's covered in styrofoam because he was getting into a box that had styrofoam in it. Yes. You gonna say hello? Okay, buddy. Let me put you down gently. There you go. But that's kind of my priority TBR for the year. That's all of my goals for the year. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've kind of enjoyed making it despite having exactly 0 plans before I went into this. I just kind of like stacked some stuff up and pulled up a little note, and that was it. So it was a little chaotic, but I hope you've enjoyed it anyway. And I hope you'll consider giving this video a like. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you have any goals for 2022 or any books that you're particularly excited to get to next year. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.